In this unprecedented 2-hour episode, we're breaking the Magician's Code
We are.
with
The
Don
secret
Wiener.
we are a secret life of a magician's friend. Yeah. As soon as we
I
turned on
forgot
Skype,
about that.
as soon as we turned on Skype, Nathan immediately said, "Do you know who directed The Magician's Code?" Don Wiener.
Yep.
Which is actually really serendipitous because today I listened to the new episode of And That's Why We Drink, and M covered a story about the dildo monster,
I know.
which spoiler alert, I think is actually a fish, but it takes place in a town called Dildo, and their part of the episode was like, I don't know, an hour and a half, and they said dildo so many times. So, fresh off the boat, Don Wiener, dildo, here we are.
Yeah, Don Wiener, make a dildo fish documentary.
Yeah.
And I think Dick Warlock's dead, but
Aw.
I think. Anyway, this is I Hope You Suffer, I guess.
Dick Wolf?
Well, there was a Kurt Russell's stunt double for like most of his career was a guy named Dick Warlock. Because I think a bunch of people periodically there'll be a screenshot from Escape from New York or whatever that goes around.
Sure. They found it out.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah.
This is episode 325 of I Hope You Suffer. The Oscar Aaron deserves.
Oh, I'm Icy Wiener.
We're talking about Ghost Adventures.
Hello, we're back with
Yeah.
Ghost Adventures.
I think the
Nathan's favorite.
last special, at least it's listed on like Letterboxd,
Yeah.
means Demon House coming your way soon. How you doing?
You know, here we are again.
Yeah.
Here we are again, is
Just-
all I'm gonna say.
Constantly a repeat, but worse somehow.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks back.
So here we are, we're doing Hot Rod again.
Yeah,
Strap
God, I
up.
fucking would love to.
Fasten your Freako belts or whatever the fuck.
I would do Hot Rod every week for the next 4
Honestly,
years.
this is now I Hope You Hot Rod, the Hot Rod podcast.
There
Where
was
every episode is Hot Rod.
There was a podcast I think sort of early-ish, like after like podcasts become like more ubiquitous. I can't say that word properly apparently, and but not as kind of evergreen as they are now. But there's some podcasts where it was like every week they just watched the movie Funny People.
Okay.
It's one of those Adam Sandler movies, but it was one of those ones where it's like him and Kevin James and like I think it's Funny People, and like they just slowly started losing their minds. And I want to do that, but Hot Rod.
Yeah. Okay.
To where I literally can't say like what or weird the proper way anymore.
What? I'm saying what weird. Sure.
Yeah, everything's bad. Go donate money to abortion funds and trans rights funds if you can. If not, just give us money.
Yeah.
No.
I would like the money.
Yeah, just take care of people close to you that did not vote for this. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much all we could do. But we're gonna try to distract you from the hellscape of the world by talking about the hellscape that is Zach Baggins.
The fans are clamoring for more Zachy B. I've heard it.
But before that,
Yeah.
we watched some of Breaking the Magician's Code.
Secret Life of a Magician.
Unwatchable.
It occurs to me that the last time when we were talking about this, you said that Mitch Pileggi was the host. And for some reason, his name, I just like completely drew a blank. And yes, he is in X-Files, but he's Skinner. So he's
Skinner,
like,
that's right. Yeah.
he's their boss or whatever. So I was like, I also had blocked that conversation out completely. So when I started the episode, he just like walked out from the corner. I was like, what are you doing here? It was like a whole thing.
I
So yeah,
I mostly know him as like he's like the bad guy in Shocker, but he's in like so
sure.
much shit. But
Yeah, yeah.
like
Who better to
he's
host Breaking the Magician's Friend?
like anyone else only because he's so fucking bland on this. It sucks. Like
It
my biggest issue is that like, and I don't know if this was just like a '90s thing or if it's just like I don't know, just it was just so like blandly put on. Mitch Pileggi has like zero fucking inflection in anything he says. Like he's just literally like walked into the studio, read the script, and left.
So the thing that's like funny to me too. So okay, if so when we did our episode on Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions, we started talking about how there was like such a moment for magic, right? And then I, from the depths of my sleep paralysis, pulled this guy's mask face out of my mind, and so we were talking about magic. So Breaking the Magician's Code was a show that came out in 1997, maybe in the 90s, where they showed you a magician's trick and then they showed you how to do it. Okay. And so the whole like premise of this is that like Mitch Pileggi walks out and he's just like, the beginning of it was so funny because he's like,
so dramatic.
it is. And it's like, finally, everybody for decades has wanted to know the secrets, and for some reason this magician has come out and he's going to reveal all the secrets, but he might get killed, so he's going to wear a mask and we're going to show his whatever. So they make it seem like this like scandal that they're like going against their lives to like show us behind the scenes of these fucking magic tricks, right? And so it's like he's like, okay, now we're in this warehouse. It just like takes place in like this abandoned warehouse that obviously they've manufactured to make it look like an abandoned warehouse. And then, so the magician is wearing all black, of course. He's got his like fucking weird mask that has like white lines on it.
I posted him like a picture of him on Blue Sky, saying I was like watching it or whatever, and that like I put for the alt text that he just looks like he was like a throwaway member of the band Dimmu Borgir. Like
Yeah.
he just looks like it's like somebody that got like way into black metal but like doesn't understand what like corpse paint is supposed to look like.
I agree with that. And also like he's somebody who has like a lot of white to his eyes. So when he's like looking at you with this mask, it's like he's like I don't know, he looks very creepy. So so they do this thing where they're in this like huge fucking warehouse and they're like, we're gonna show you. Well, also imagine everything that I'm saying is just very monotone.
Yes,
It's like
that was my biggest problem the entire thing.
So he's like explaining, he's like, basically they showed the trick as it would look if you were like at a magic show. But the thing that's like really awkward about it is that they're like, we're taking away all of the lasers and smoke and whatever so you can see the trick. So it's just these magicians' assistants, women like dancing for their lives to like there's no set. It's just an abandoned like again warehouse
it's
with
literally
whatever
like
the trick is.
It's a black room and they just like kind of put boxes.
Yeah.
Or whatever, like crates in the background, so it looks like they're in a warehouse, but yeah.
It's definitely just like a green screen backdrop or whatever. But anyways, they're dancing to the high gods here in their platform boots and their like fishnet booty shorts and shit. But like it's weird because there's music in the background, but it's just like ambient music. It's not like they're dancing like they're at like a go-go show or something. So it's like really weird. And so he is like narrating to us what's happening because the magician's not talking. He's just like doing poses and whatever. And he is very monotone, but it's almost as if he's like whispering to us, like this is a golf game or something, where he's like, okay, now the magician is going to do a pose. The woman with the ribbon dancers is distracting you. It's a great distraction. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
So did you just watch that first episode
I watched,
or whatever?
yeah, yeah.
So I got 3, maybe 4 episodes in.
I
and
don't.
So I was like, I'm gonna just watch the whole thing, and then Caitlin came home, and I was like, I'm not watching this, and I was like, thank God, it gives me an excuse to turn it off.
Yeah.
But like in like the 3rd episode or something, they do one of those ones where there's like 2 women in like a box, and I can't remember exactly what the trick was, but like it was like he opens this opening little window thing to show you they're in there and give you a nice view of some toned abs. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Gross. There's also like one of the very first tricks they show us, and this is like how, again, this is all just going back to how like 90s coded this is. One of the very first tricks that they show you is turning a girl in a cage into a tiger, which if you know anything, like, so, and the thing too that like really bothered me about the show is that it's like kind of slow, and they're saying things that are just like 100% unless you're like that are just like obvious. Like at one point he tells us that there's curtains going around the cage to hide what's really happening in the trick, and I'm like, yes, like what, why are you saying this to us? Like obviously that's what's happening. But he says something like there's a so the way that the cage trick is done is that there's like a poor tiger in the very, very far back of this cage, and there's a false wall in front of it. So when the girl gets in, the tiger's already in there. They cover it with a, if it was really a trick, why cover it with a fucking cloak or whatever? So it raises into the air, and then she goes into this like little compartment like that's built into the bottom of the cage, and he basically is just like, this is why they're not fat. And I was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
because the compartment is like very small. And then he continues to say the slender assistant, this, that, and the other. And I was like, all right, chill out, okay?
There was one in like one of the other episodes I watched that was like the one where the like a woman gets in the box and he just like pushes a bunch of swords in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you know, it was like, you gotta get like the slenderest assistant you could find for this trick or some shit, because like, which granted, like, I don't know, it's like they show like her inside the box and she has to literally like maneuver around these swords.
Right, sure.
So it's like, I get it, but it was like the way they talked about it, I was like, come on, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I get it. It's extremely like very, very 90s that like that's just the way.
Yep.
They're talking. I think what the show needed, and I honestly, if this maybe was the change, I probably could have got through the whole thing. Is like, I think it should have been one of those things where like, you know, the magician is narrating it as the trick's happening.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of moments where like they're doing the trick, but Mitch Pileggi is like not narrating anything. And I was like, so I'm just watching a magic trick happening with like no smoke and mirrors, the fucking blandest music. It's just like, it's a very, I can't fucking believe this was a show that had like 20 something episodes.
Yeah.
And like ran for years. Like there would be like a special for like 2 or 3 times a year, and then I think there was like a little mini season of it, and then like another special.
Yeah, like I vividly remember watching this and being like, oh my god, this is like obviously
scandalous.
Yeah, like it was manufactured because like you can literally just learn how to do a trick, like it's not a secret, you know, really. I mean, maybe, I don't know, I guess whatever. But like I remember it being like, oh my god, this guy's risking his life to. I think that maybe, yeah, it's extremely dull to watch, and I think that maybe a change for me would be if they would have performed the trick like set, like you can still have the magician, and then they're like, all of the assistants are different, so you'll never know who this magician actually is. And it's like, who's trying to figure that out? Who the fuck cares? But I think that the way that it could have been done better to me is if they would have like built a stage and showed us the trick as if it was like being performed for us and not just like this kind of like clinical version of it or whatever, but it's whatever. I love that there's that spoof of it on King of the Hill. I don't know if you remember that episode where they go to like, it's like a magic in a show and it's like a Mexican restaurant and Peggy gets in the
Oh,
pinata and then
right. And then
yeah,
Hank
Hank
can't
gets like
figure it out.
obsessed with trying to figure it out or whatever. Yeah, I loved that one. So, I mean,
Like
it's
immediately, I was like, all right, I know this is gonna have something to do with Bobby. But
well, I think that at the
I
end
was
they
equating it with the when Bobby is learning comedy from the weird college dude, and he's doing like that
oh my
weird
God,
fucking puppy dog thing.
Tartuffe, the spry
Yes.
wonder dog. That's one of my favorite episodes. I love it. But at the end of that King of the Hill or that Magician's Front whatever episode, they do that spoof of it,
Yeah,
like
that's
showing how the trick is done or whatever, which I love. So just go watch King of the Hill instead of this because this was extremely bland and boring. Like,
well, like,
I barely made it through the first episode.
it's one of those things where like I feel like I'd be more interested in like a 10-minute like YouTube video of all of these tricks.
Yeah.
But like an hour-long episode, I was like, you had nothing else to put on TV.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's bad. Don't bother.
Yeah, not great.
Unless you're just clamoring because we talked about this fucking show like 5 weeks in a row for some reason.
They are yeah.
I was I said something in my group text and I was watching it and they were like, why? I was like, I don't know. It's come up on like 5 episodes of I Hope You Suffer. And I was like, I gotta get this shit out of my system or else we're gonna talk about it constantly for some reason.
Listen, I take full responsibility.
I was the Lord of Illusions, you said. I was like, I don't even remember how it came up, but like
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Because I said he crawled from my sleep paralysis dreams to taunt me.
I feel
Okay,
like it's a thing where like once a year something would remind me that was a show.
yeah.
But yeah, it's boring. I think like I'm gonna pitch Fox to bring it back, but I'm
I
gonna
think
have
you
him
should.
let you do like the narration as the newsie.
Oh, yeah. I'm in. Throw my name in the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, a series of television shows and specials in which the methods behind magic tricks and illusions are explained by a narrator and performed in a warehouse. As bland as that was, that's what this show is. So.
It's I don't know, because it's a thing I think it can be interesting. Like I said, if it's like a 10-minute YouTube video with somebody that had like a little more charisma or like put some oomph into it, I'd be very interested. Because I don't know, something about like behind the scenes shit of like stuff like that I am like interested in. But this was just too long and too...
So, yeah, for all of those wondering, they made like a big thing, like a big show, like I said, about this magician being unknown. We do know who the magician was, and I'm gonna reveal it right now.
Well, there was a couple of them.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's funny is that, so like the one I guess that's most notable is a magician named Val Valentino. And it says that like what he's known best for is starring in the television show. And I was like, well.
Yeah, he was, I would almost bet anything that he was just like a slightly failing magician.
Yeah.
And was just like, yeah, I'll take this job, and like thinking it would be, for some reason, be like a fucking, like decade-long career. And it's like, bro.
He did an AMA.
I'm sure that went well.
Why did you do it? Also, did you get any threats from other magicians? Let's see. He said, at that time, the art of magic was about to change with the information highway, the internet. Magicians had become complacent and were not prepared for any changes that were to come. The program seemed to be a place to shack things up. Oh, shake. He spelled shack. He said shack things up. and get magicians talking.
SHAQ?
No. Yes. Shackalicious. Sure. I'm here to shack things up. How has he, if he hasn't used that, copyright me. Sure, I took some flack, but it was all for good cause, to get magicians talking. I love the idea that they created a show exposing magicians about being fake in order to like get the conversation going between other magicians. Like, I don't know. I was a child, so of course I don't necessarily know that I thought that they were actually doing magic. Like, I feel like if you're cognizant at all, like obviously you understand it's a trick, but like I don't know. Who was what? I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, don't watch it.
Yeah. Obviously, you should watch.
Sorry, I brought it up.
Ghost Adventures instead.
You should.
This episode unhinged. Absolutely.
It is amazing.
Somehow ending these specials on a high/low note.
Yeah. Before we start, I have a snack corner.
Oh.
It's not weird though, unfortunately. It is just the toasty holiday peanut M&Ms. I'm just really curious how these would be different than regular M&Ms. Peanut M&Ms, which are my favorite. Oh. They smell kind of like caramel corn.
Weird.
Okay. So, interesting.
Nah, sounds bad.
It has kind of like, they're definitely sweeter than regular peanut M&Ms. And if I were to say, I feel like it has kind of almost like a toffee flavor. Like I can see, I guess, why it's called toasty holiday peanut M&Ms.
No, thank you.
I think I prefer regular M&Ms though.
Like, just like you've already, like, all of these candies need to fucking, and I guess technically sodas that we talk about, just need to, like, chill out.
Yeah, and I think
none of them are ever as nearly as good as the stuff they've already done.
right, and I feel like some of this is just like, also one of my favorite M&Ms ever was a Cocoa Crisp M&M that they used to release during Halloween, and I haven't seen it in like years, and they were so good and like delicious, and they're just like, yeah, never mind. And then I'm trying to think of the last time they released so like toasty holiday peanut. This is like essentially peanut brittle. Like it tastes like peanut brittle, which I'm pretty sure that they've done peanut brittle. And then I saw the other one is like holiday mint M&M, and I'm like, okay, they already have mint M&Ms, right? And then for like other holidays, they just changed the color of the like chocolate coating. So I'm like,
I wonder which one. Like, I saw a fucking like article in my like Google News page or whatever that was just like, this holiday M&M candy is making people lose their minds. They're buying 70 bags at a time, and I wonder which one of those ones it was.
what?
So it's like, it doesn't sound like either. I guarantee it was probably the mint, but
I will say, they did also release a version of the peanut butter M&Ms in like mega size. So if you like peanut butter M&Ms, those are the way to go. But
just
I don't know, like
I know all it is they're just like, yeah, there's in like a warehouse where they have all these other things. Like, what if we just combine these?
mm-hmm.
Like they this, they're all doing shit now too. Or like if you look at cereal, like a lot of that like sort of like the Cinnamon Toast Crunch and like what, you know, Trix or whatever. They make the exact same thing, but they're smaller pieces as like a separate cereal. And I'm just like, so you're just like selling the like discards.
Yeah.
As like a new cereal, and also probably charging more for it.
Yeah. They've been started doing that with Doritos also, and I was like, the last thing I need is my Doritos to be smaller. If anything, I want them to be bigger. So don't even try that with me. Yeah, the only soda that I think I'm gonna try this year is the blackberry Dr. Pepper. But I haven't been able to find it anywhere
Oh, I
yet.
saw that, but
So
like I was just like, I don't know.
I think that's the one I'm looking for. But I think I'm done with Mountain Dews and shit this year. So we'll see.
I
Okay.
yeah, the mountain I unless there's like a Mountain Dew one that's like very like really fucking weird, kind of like how like Coke does those ones where you're just like, I doesn't want to even tell you what the flavor is. Like the Mountain Dew ones are always bad, so like I'm done checking
You
those out. But the Dr
you
Pepper ones are usually pretty good.
you don't want fruitcake
No, I tried that. It was
back?
horrendous.
That was one of the worst things I've ever tasted. Um, okay. Well, let's get into Ghost Adventures. This episode, I have seen, but I didn't remember specifically what happened in it because it was maybe like one of the first ones I watched. Wowie zowie. So
So this would I feel like of any of them, this is the one that would be like, I gotta see what the fuck else is going on the show.
yeah, because I feel like it's like okay, so they have. I will say one thing about this episode. It is half of it just talking about previous investigations and talking to people and like not really a lot of investigating because I feel after having completed this entire episode that like Zach it if we're gonna say that his fear and other episodes is manufactured, I don't know about this one. Like I'm not saying everything I'm definitely not saying everything that happens is legitimate, but towards the end, when he goes into the basement without a camera or a light or anything, I really feel like he was genuinely scared, which
I'm
I do.
yeah, I agree, but I also don't know how much of that is just that like he was literally in like the dark by
Seriously.
himself or like actual
Yeah.
like he thinks he was being haunted or whatever.
Well, and so I will say, I don't
I
know.
I fucking died laughing when he runs into the wall.
I did remember that part because I remember specifically him running into the wall so hard that it broke his chest camera, and
He
I was
just
like,
starts
"Damn,
screaming,
sir!"
"Help, guys, help!"
Ah, like yelling at the top of his lungs authentically. Okay, so let's
It's
start.
up there with the crackers for me as maybe the highlight so far.
So this is the Goldfield Hotel, which is a special, which you can actually search Goldfield Hotel. It'll come up. They talk about this a little bit in the episode, so I'm just gonna say off the top, this is the fourth time that they've been to this location. The first time was like one of the very original
It's literally part of
um
like the special that got them the show
right.
in the
So
it's in the first one, yeah.
it was more like they went to do this as a way to pitch the show because that original investigation took place in 2004. And just for some frame of reference, the show started in 2008. So when they keep saying we're going back to where it all began, it's not like something you can watch because it was like essentially just like a promo thing. And Billy and Jay were like not a part of the show at that point. So when they're talking about that, that footage is not ever shown in anything that's airing. And so they also did another episode, which was in 2010, which was called Return to the Goldfield Hotel. Then they did one in 2013 that was called like Goldfield Hotel Redemption or something. The Redemption episode you can see. It's season 8, episode 15. But the one before that was taken off of streaming because of something that we'll get into in a minute. So they're here in Goldfield, Nevada. Zach says that few investigations that they've done have affected them personally and scared the absolute shit out of them. I would hesitate to say that's not true, but that's fine. The reason that they're back now is because there's been an infestation of darkness. Prepare yourselves for Ghost Adventures, Goldfield Hotel. So here we are, Goldfield, Nevada. The town itself was founded in 1902 as a mining town, as we all know. And essentially, the town was like prospering because of gold, the gold rush, for about 10 years. And then it kind of started to shit the bed, as it were. And now the Goldfield Hotel is considered one of the most haunted locations in America. Hmm. And just recently, they've decided that it's become a magnet for the dead and an infection for the living. Damn. This is when we learn, this was like all over the news, and I'm pretty sure that you and I have talked about it before, but there were two investigators that were part of the show named Mark and Debbie Constantino,
Yeah.
and they were on the show a lot. They were in the Return to the Goldfield Hotel episode, which is why it's been removed, because in 2015, Mark murdered Debbie and then himself. So there was like a big scandal, obviously, around that because they were like I'm pretty sure that they used like Ghost Adventures couple as like part of the headlines, which like obviously there was other stuff going on there. And so this episode, I feel it's like weird to me to be like, I'm gonna remove these like other episodes because I have the rights to do that in respect for their families. I'm gonna take them off, but then use them as kind of like a cornerstone and like, I don't know. They like use it because like throughout this entire episode, they're talking to somebody else whose name is Janice, and she's like a historian, and she goes into the hotel with them, and they're kind of just like talking about like previous investigations and like how do you feel about this. And Janice was like in a previous episode where she met Mark and Debbie, and Zach is like, I don't even want to say his name because of what happened and out of respect or whatever. But then he asks her, do you think that the hotel calls spirits back to it? And she says yes. And I say, oh no. Because they essentially just like monopolize like the story by thinking that Mark's spirit is talking to them the whole time. And so they're like, Mark, is that you? Mark, is that you? And I'm like, you can't say like, I don't want to say his name because of the horrible thing that he did, whatever, and then just like continue to say his name. It just makes absolutely no fucking sense. Like you pick and choose when you want to be respectful. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So he's trying to say, and because he's trying to say like, he doesn't directly say, well, I think something attached to him from this investigation and that's why it happened. But he is trying to say that like people, a lot of quote unquote, a lot of people died that had something to do with the hotel surrounding the investigation, which is not true. You had this horrible tragedy that happened with two of the investigators that happened in 2015. And then he's like, in 2020, the owner of the hotel passes away. He was old. Like, no offense, but yeah, he was old.
His picture popped up, and even Caitlin was like, all right, come on. Like, this guy looks like he was already, like, 90 in the picture they showed him in, like, early 2000.
Right. They show, like, a clip from one of the earlier investigations. I'm assuming it was the 2013 one. I'm not really sure. But he looked, like, old at that time. Yes. Like, no offense, sir. But, like, him passing away 5 years after this like situation, I was like, okay, that's nothing. And then he goes on to further tell us that in 2017 there was some random guy who felt called to the hotel, and he left a note saying like, oh, the spirits wanted me to come here and haunt the hotel, and then he dies by suicide in front of the hotel. So there's like these three things that like he's saying is making it is that I don't know. I'm just like, there's no correlation between these things. They're just things that happened, and you know the people, and they don't even know this last person. So I thought that was really weird.
It's one of those things where kind of like I get what they're doing, because it's sort of like Cecil Hotel or whatever, where they're just like, here's all of these like deaths that had happened here, but it's also like, Yeah, it's a hotel. Like every hotel has
Exactly.
probably got hundreds of deaths that have happened there that like aren't mysterious or like a thing where you could like be like, who made this person drive here to kill themselves? Like,
Yeah. He's really I'm just trying to actually, I guess, reiterate that he's like really making a feast out of these little scraps of things that have happened over the span of like 20 years or whatever the fuck.
yeah, like it's. I understand like the point of like like when it's like, hey, like these incidences of like people we were close with all happened here or whatever, but like the one where he's just like, and the old man that owned it passed away peacefully in bed at the age of 102.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Like, yeah, 6 months ago. Right. So, they show so then they're talking to the new owner who is the previous owner's son, and he took over ownership of the hotel like 6 months before that or something like that. And the only reason that his interview really is like of any note is because he says that there's a portal on the third floor. Wow.
yep, been there. Every
For some,
hotel,
I know,
third
right?
floor.
For some reason, they tell us that a week earlier they sent out a crew to put up curtains and black out all the windows, so no sunshine has shined into the hotel for a whole week. Okay.
I didn't understand what the point of this was, other than like
I don't know.
like other than to be like to do the whole entire thing where they're just like, oh, the ghosts are pissed. There's been no sunlight.
Like, my guy, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but if ghosts normally come out at nighttime, they're not seeing sunshine anyways. I really have no idea what the point of it was. I guess just to kind of like reinforce the darkness inside, because if you look at the hotel from the outside now, like we said, this hotel was built in like 1906. So it's very old. Or it wasn't 1906. That was when the first hotel, whatever. The early 1900s, right? And the hotel is no longer functioning. The town, they didn't specifically say this, but I assume it's a ghost town. Well, there's a gift shop, so maybe it's just like
It just looked like it was like a place in like this small little like desert town where like maybe there's like 50 miles or something to the next town.
yeah,
Because
so
like
now
people clearly like lived there because they when they talk about the guy that like shoots himself in front of the hotel or whatever, they clearly like show some shops that had like open and closed signs and stuff like that. So like there's something happening
yeah,
there.
I'm assuming that it's kind of probably more like a tourist destination at this point. Um but anyways, the hotel is not habitat. It's not like there's a lot of the windows are blown out or whatever. So the fact that they are doing like blocking everything off, like I get from a aspect of like, well, we don't want the light just coming straight in while we're trying to
Yeah,
investigate
yeah.
at night. But they don't frame it that way. They try and make it to be this like experiment that they're doing, which I don't really understand. Whatever. Okay, so this is when we learned that the first hotel, the first Goldfield Hotel, was built in 1906. They try to make it seem like this really weird thing that the hotel burnt down. It was completely made of wood in the early 1900s, and I'm so sorry. Obviously, it's sad people died in the fire, but that was like an everyday thing in that time, essentially.
Yeah.
And so they basically just like start talking about all the deaths that occurred in the hotel, which of course we already said that is like such a thing, especially again for the early 1900s. There's like all of these stories about like sex workers essentially. And he said this like really weird statistic, which was that 1/3 of the deaths of the sex workers were like suicide. And I was like, okay. So it's like either that somebody else kills you or you die naturally. Like, okay. I just like didn't really understand what they were getting at with that. And of course, they're showing us like reenactment people standing in a corner and like blah, 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 moving their head really fast.
Peeing in the middle of the room and
Yeah.
maggots.
I like recently saw somebody share the clip of the horse forcefully peeing or
It's so
whatever.
weird. I don't understand why
I
they
feel
have
like
that.
I feel like they should do that in all the episodes
I mean,
now.
I agree. I think that that should be like their ongoing just like inside joke for every episode. Is just like hidden in this little quick little
Yeah.
vignettes or whatever, just a
Yeah.
horse peeing.
So this is where we get the kind of like thing with Janice, who I said was the historian, talking about Debbie. And Zach, this is where Zach asks if the building calls people back, and that's where I was like, oh no, not great. Then they also basically, like I said, we don't actually get to them investigating until 35 solid minutes into this episode. So, like, they're talking to Janice. Did I say her name was? They're talking to Janice, and Janice is telling them about Virginia, who was a custodian who was affected by some kind of entity there, and she blames Zach for what happened. And I said, fair. But Zach is like very shocked by this information. This is when they start to mention to us that they've discovered that there is a vein of quartz underneath the hotel, and they start to explain the science behind why people think that quartz or other natural minerals like essentially either hold on to or like amplify spiritual activity, which is actually very much a thing. Then they basically are like going around the hotel and talking about, but not showing us evidence that they've gotten in the past. So he's like, okay, when we were here last time, there was a board and there was an orb flying around and it knocked the board over. And I'm like, okay, I'll take your word for it, I guess. Um, they're all standing there talking. This is when they hear a quote unquote man's voice, and Zach starts freaking out. This scene, maybe it's this or later. There's a lot of instances where they say that they hear a man's voice like out loud, not through a device, just like hearing it in another room. And there's like one scene where somebody else hears it and says, "Did you hear that?" And Zach says no, but everybody's like talking over each other. And then they like run over to where the thing is, and Zach's like, "Yeah, I heard it too. I heard it too." And I was like, "You literally just said you didn't, but fine." So they basically like go outside to check to make sure that there's nobody out on the street talking or whatever. Of course, one of them has an EMF meter and the EMF is spiking all over the place. And Zach says, "Who are you? Do you know us? Do we know you?" Again, they're coming around to this weird fucking plot twist in here that they think this is Mark, the man who killed his wife and himself. Okay. Um, so this is when Billy starts to get upset. Everyone is starting to feel intense emotional distress. Aaron Aaron starts crying. You know,
Aaron just fucking just seems on edge just all of his life at this this point in the show.
I mean, at any point Zach is gonna tell him to crawl in the sewer or some shit, you know? So like I get it. If I was Aaron, I would be stressed. We should do there's one episode where Aaron has the team come and investigate his dad's house that he used to own because it's haunted, and we should definitely do that
Oh
episode.
boy.
Um so somehow they like decide that the voice they heard was actually that they don't ever identify the person who drove in from out of town and died by suicide on the front step. They don't ever say like a name or anything, but they've decided that that voice was actually him because when they heard the voice, Zach felt compelled to run outside, and that's the spot where it happened. Okay. Zach also touches a bullet hole again, which I don't know why. I find that so disrespectful and weird. Like,
Did they say when this, like, how long ago it was that this happened?
it happened in 2017.
When was this aired? Like this post
Mm,
pandemic, right?
this might have been
Like
either post or
recently?
during. Everyone's wearing masks, but
Well,
let's
that's what
see.
Caitlin was like. Oh, like let's see, Zach Baggins is actually taking like COVID seriously. I was like, no, he
He has
100% just
asthma.
can't breathe now because he got possessed or some shit.
Yeah.
Um, because I was just like, just how
2021.
how do you not change that window?
I don't know because it's also like
Unless
an
that was
open
literally like
close
a
sign or something.
yeah. That's what I was like. I was gonna say like unless it's just like a place that has not been open since.
Well, my thing is I think that they kept it there for the story.
Yeah, maybe.
So this episode came out in 2021. So it's been 4 years. So yeah, I think I'm gonna assume they kept it there for the story. Um okay. Yeah, Zach is touching bullet holes, of course. What does this say? I dropped water or something on part of the page, so so we meet somebody, oh, Celia maybe was her name, and Jonathan, who are just like two other random people that had an experience in the hotel in 2020. Uh, Jonathan says that he felt that he was choked. Celia heard shuffling in a corner and got scratched.
Mm-hmm.
Fair. This is so funny because Zach was like, "Where did you feel like? Where did this happen?" And they're like, "Oh, back in that back room." And he's like, "Oh, that's where all this other stuff happened." He was like, "Where are you? I can feel you there. We know you're there." And I wrote, "Zach provokes," and then he goes, "Yes, I am provoking." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, spooky." Um. This is when one of them tells us that there is a demonic entity known as the Boy. Nobody knows who he is, but it is a demon that takes the form of a little boy.
Yep.
Great. Zach is then overcome with rage and anger.
Everybody in this episode is constantly just getting mad at each other, and I feel like I wonder. I often wonder when I see this shit like this happen, where I'm just like, I wonder if they're just like
Tired of being
I'm really
together.
fucking tired of these people, and the only way I can express that is by saying like I'm possessed or like something flew into me, and I had to get like an all of a sudden like rage at them.
My thing is that like I'm so sorry about rage and anger. Like we don't need one is fine. Just
Yeah,
say I'm overcome with rage. I'm overcome with rage and anger. And he's telling us that he has to fight to not let like he's basically standing there actively being possessed, and he's by sheer will like like trying to make it so he doesn't get possessed. Later that night, no investigating. Again, they're literally just walking around the hotel talking to people. Like that's all this day one has been, right? That night, Zach has what he calls the worst nightmare of his life. And
won't
also,
tell us what it is.
it's so graphic and terrible that he will not tell us what it is. But he wants us to know that it's true because he told everybody else. He's like, I told you, Billy. I told you, Aaron. Jay, I told you. And they're like, yeah, yeah, you did. It was terrifying. I'm like, all right. Also, coincidentally, the power went out in the hotel. That's, listen, I'd be spooked a little bit if I had a nightmare and then the power went out. He texted you up to somebody. We don't know who, but well. Um, that's when we also find out that I'm confused about this situation because they're like standing there talking about about like the nightmare, about how he told everybody and it's like crazy. Billy tells us that when they were going through the lobby, nobody he placed a recorder down just to like see what they could get. He's saying that nobody is in the lobby, but it's very loud and echoey. So while we're listening to the recording of an EVP, you can just hear everybody talking in the background. And I was like, how is that convincing us that nobody's standing there whispering into the recorder?
Right.
Because like you can hear other people talking like loudly. I was confused. But anyways, they get an EVP of somebody saying Aaron. Then they get one of somebody saying it's hotel hell.
Gordon Ramsay showed up.
That would be so funny. He's like, hello, here I am. I want to, oh my God, new show idea. Gordon Ramsay's haunted, whatever. He has to go in and get these locations not haunted so that someone can open up a
I
restaurant and or
I have
hotel.
a better pitch.
Okay.
So they did wife swap, right? So we do just show swap where like hosts of shows have to like spend, you know, a season hosting the other show. So like Zach Baggins would have to host like Kitchen Nightmares or something,
I
or
love
like
that.
Hell's Kitchen.
Yes, I'm in.
Gordon Ramsay could do Ghost Adventures.
Yes, I love that idea so much. I could
Trademark IP
not.
suffer. Go get
Yeah,
away from us, Fox, unless you're gonna give us a bunch of money for that idea.
it would have to be a lot because we hate you.
Like at
Um,
least $100 each.
Scrape the bottom of the barrel, get it together. I love that idea so much. Like, could you imagine Gordon Ramsay just like watching these other dudes like get possessed and
I,
stuff, and he's
I,
just like standing there?
I'm just thinking of like Guy Fieri and Zach Baggins switching roles, so Zach Baggins has to do like Guy's grocery games, and then Guy Fieri has to do like ghost hunting.
I kind of feel like I I feel like they're kind of similar people.
Kind of, but their energy is so different in the way they
Yeah,
host that like
sure.
I just picture Guy Fieri being like loud and shit the entire time, and then Zach
Yeah.
Baggins being like, in this unprecedented 30-minute cook-off
You have to
in
use
Flavortown Market. I
dragon
just want to hear
fruit
Zach Baggins say Flavortown.
Flavor Town. Yeah. All right. Cameo idea. Have him say welcome to Flavor
Yeah,
Town.
see how cameo? Let's figure it out.
He would be remiss not to be honest with you.
I
Okay,
feel like
so
he probably has enough money that he's not doing that shit.
oh, absolutely not. Yeah, no. He is one of the richest people in the world, I think.
There's somebody that apparently cosplays as Zach Baggins
Sure.
on Cameo.
That doesn't surprise me.
Boogans and Googies. The fuck
Ew,
is this? I do
I
not
don't
like that name.
I don't like that at all. There's a lot of people I'm on TikTok actually that did obviously dressed up as him for Halloween. There's a lot of really good ones, and there were some that like I would have a hard time picking a lineup of like who was the real one. So I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, these two are the ultimate Ghost Adventure superfans, known for their hilarious over-the-top impressions of Zach Baggins and his crew. Their cameo videos are a wild ride with frequent requests to recreate iconic moments from the show, like Zach yelling at Aaron. So every
Great,
episode,
great.
making him
Um,
investigate the scariest spots alone, or dropping famous Zachisms like "understand, understand." Like,
okay,
oh, hey, only $16
okay,
for
not
cameo.
bad. All right, not bad.
The guy that like is dressed like Zach Baggins literally just looks like the singer from Suicidal Tendencies, but with like big black frame glasses on.
All right, that checks out.
Zach
Um,
Baggins, come on the podcast. We need you to say phrases for us.
yeah, please say Zachisms.
Yeah, say Flavortown Market.
Say this time on Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives.
I just like I if somehow if we were like Joe Rogan level like rich from doing this podcast, I would pay Zach Baggins to do the tagline of every fucking movie we cover
Yeah,
for every episode.
I
That's
think
all we
that
would
would.
spend our money on.
I think that would be the best use of our money. To be honest with you, it is a must. Okay, okay. It's Hotel Hell. Gotta say, didn't hear that one. They played it for us a few times.
Well, there's
Couldn't hear it.
I could like hear it, but it's one of those ones where like the first time, two times they play it, the words aren't on the screen, and I was like, I don't know what this is saying. And then once they're like, oh my
They tell
god, he
you,
said
yeah.
Hotel Hell, and they show it, then I'm like, okay, well, clearly the only reason I'm hearing this is because you have now planted that in my brain.
Right,
But
exactly.
there's some where like every once in a while there's ones like in this one and like they do the fucking thing where like it tells Zach his birth year.
Yeah,
Like I
that.
could clearly hear that without them showing it, but
Yeah.
also it doesn't say 70, it just says 77.
I heard. Okay, we'll get to that. So it says it's Hotel Hell, of course, and then of course somebody's saying Get Out, of course. Zach is getting quote unquote fired up, and whatever. Then they also get an EVP of somebody saying, "Hey Zach." They think and comment that this sounds like Mark. And at this point, I had forgotten who Mark was, and I was like, "Who?" And I had to like flip back, and I was like, "Oh yeah,
I would leave immediately if any of these boxes said my name.
yes." And like they do show us in previous investigations that they have other. It's so. One of the things I love about episodes like this is they rarely go back to the same locations. There are a few where they will do it once. Because this one is like the fourth time they've come, they do show us some previous like investigations, and I love how different the technology is because they're showing us at one point, this is like Zach, like pre-glasses, pre mask. He's wearing like this crazy affliction t-shirt or whatever the fuck. And they're using just like a handheld instead of a spirit box. And like they still use just like like a recorder, a hand recorder or whatever. Not a lot, but they do still use it. And it's like them with a hand recorder holding up like a little tiny boom mic to it because like they don't have the technology to pick it up or whatever with the booms. And so I love when they show us like previous stuff, like footage or whatever, because the equipment is just like so hilarious to me. But anyways, in other investigations, he has gotten EVPs of people saying his name before, which is a weird coincidence.
But also doesn't seem like it's that hard to just get like an ack sound out of these things.
Sure, fair. So yeah, they got one that's like pretty clear that says "Hey Zach." I hear it; it's definitely saying "Hey Zach," but for them to say it sounds like this other guy, I was like, okay, like a generic man voice, whatever. Then we get another interview, but this one is with a man named Chris, who is a psychic medium. Who, buddy, are we in for a show with this guy?
This guy rules.
I did not remember this guy being a part of this at all, and I was not prepared. So basically, Zach has called in this guy, Chris, who is a psychic medium, because he wants to find out who in the hotel keeps saying Zach's name and why. This is when we're introduced to Jeff for the first time, our best friend Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Zach is just like, yeah, so he's here. He invents equipment for us. He's a technician, whatever. I kind of like glazed over at this point because Chris is trying to explain to us that he thinks that there is what he's calling a time vortex in the hotel, which is allowing, like, they're trying to say that EVPs that they've gotten in the past were Mark's spirit, like, in the future, talking to them in the past. And I was like, absolutely. It absolutely is. I have absolutely no idea. This is where I wrote, we're 35 minutes in. Finally, they start investigating themselves. Immediately, everybody is nauseous. They feel sick. Their tummy-tums hurt. There's a light anomaly that goes into Chris, and then all of a sudden he can't talk. And I wrote, he's possessed, with like 5 underlined exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. He immediately gets possessed. He starts heavy breathing, growling, talking as if he is a spirit. And the spirits are saying, why are you here in my house, essentially? Fair question, right? As this is happening, this goes on. Like, this guy's possessed or channeling spirits or whatever you want to say in this instant for like a pretty long time. And it's hard to describe what it looks like. So I really recommend going to watch it because it looks crazy. And this is when Aaron, if you could believe this, Aaron's demeanor starts changing and he gets overwhelmed with rage and attacks Billy.
Well, clearly they had some sort of misunderstanding earlier in the day. and he just couldn't take it.
The thing that makes me laugh is that like rather than just like showing us the scene, there Zach's voiceover is already explaining to us like this is where Aaron's demeanor changes, and he like sits his camera down on a table, and like later he tries to say it's because he started like shaking a lot, so he put the camera down, but I was like, I think he put the camera down as to not break expensive equipment.
He
When he then turns and just like fucking tackles Billy.
he does the thing where like when I get mad at work and I just have to like turn around and just sort of like clench my fist for a minute before I like, or
Yeah,
else I'm just gonna quit. Where
yeah.
he just sits there for a minute and he just kind of like tenses up, but then he just attacks this dude.
He just fucking tackles Billy, and it's kind of a blur because at first I couldn't. At first I thought he attacked Chris, which I was like, that is he must have signed a waiver or something. Because it's hard to tell, you know, with like the green screen, everyone's wearing the same color. Like I wasn't sure for a while. So yeah, but he attacks Billy, and they're all like, it's chaos breaks out, right? They're all like, "Whoa, dude, bro, what's going on, bro?" And they're like pushing each other, holding Aaron, and like doing all of this shit, right? And they go outside. They break it up or whatever. Aaron goes off on his own. They go outside, and Jay and Billy are basically just like, "Oh my God, that was crazy. He had incredible super strength. He picked me up with one hand." And I was like, "Okay, great, sure he did." And Aaron, they find Aaron at the like equipment van. He's just like, I don't know what happened. Weird. I'm sorry, man, bro. You know that's not me, guy. And they're like, yeah, bro, it wasn't you. You had superhuman strength. And I was like, okay. Anyways, this goes on for like a while, right? And while they're having this like conversation about how crazy it is, the psychic medium guy is just like, listen, they're trying to get us all to turn on each other so that we're not investigating what's really going on in there. And the spirit was in me, and then I pushed him out, so he went into you. It's not your fault, and just like all of this shit, right? Meanwhile, there's like a camera that's like positioned inside where they just were, and there's a ball on the floor, and I was like really confused because they don't tell us about this beforehand, and I thought that they were just trying to say it was like a ball of light that was like shimmering or shaking or whatever. And I was like, what are they talking about? And then Zach goes inside where the quote unquote Aaron attack, as they call it, happened. And Zach gets mad and kicks the ball. And I was like, oh, it's just a real ball. Okay.
Yep.
Great, I guess. Then they also see a black mass running around. Okay. This is where Zach hears the man's voice again in a room, and this is finally where they break out the XLS camera. And again, they basically like take out the XLS and they show it on Aaron and Zach. They're like, or I'm sorry, Aaron and Chris. They're standing there, and you can see the XLS stick figures like mapped over them or whatever. And they start being like, "Oh my God, it's so cold over here. It's so cold over here." And Zach's like, "Okay, Aaron, step out of the picture." And so Aaron goes, "Okay," and he steps out, and there is a figure mapped like exactly where Aaron was just standing, right? And then it starts like freaking out because again, Aaron's no longer there, and it's just like this thing freaking out or whatever. But they're trying to say that, and then it like goes over and it's like imposed over where Chris is standing, and it's like they're like, oh, there's this creature on the floor, it's grabbing his legs, it's praying, it's leaning in front of him, and I was like, okay.
It's I think I sent you the snap where I was like, why
Yeah,
is this ghost blowing this dude?
yeah. Which actually, I mean,
It happened
could
in
have,
Ghostbusters.
yeah. Uh, so maybe. But anyways, they're just like, it's grabbing his legs, and they're freaking out. And then Zach is trying to say that like, and when the figure disappears, this is when Chris is like, okay, the spirit's gone. And Zach's like, this is proof because Chris doesn't know what we're capturing. And I'm like, but you guys are fucking yelling and screaming and carrying on, and then you stop. So like, social cues at all? No? Okay. Yeah, Zach's freaking out, I wrote. Then they do a spirit box again, and it says "Get out," of course. Um, Billy, all of a sudden, his heart is racing and he's trembling erratically. Zach says, "Okay." And this is when Billy like really actually freaks out and is like, "I don't know what's happening to me, guys," and he just starts screaming. Okay. He's like, he
Every,
literally just goes, ah, ah.
everyone in this episode just starts screaming for no reason all the time.
Mhm.
It's so funny.
They do show us Billy's Apple Watch, which says that his heart rate is like something
It's like
crazy.
144 or some shit.
Yeah, and
But
they're
it's
just like,
also like you're like in a dark room amping each other up for hours.
yep,
Like I feel like even just being in like what is like a pitch black fucking abandoned hotel, my heart rate would probably be like that.
definitely. I am absolutely never trying to posture that I wouldn't be scared out of my mind doing this shit, but like, hold, just chill. Because he gets like, he's like, oh my, nothing is happening, first of all. They're all standing there together. And oh, somebody says get out or whatever, right? Billy's heart starts racing. He's trembling. He's screaming. He's like, my body's numb. Ah, ah. And they're like, just chill. Just calm down, guy. It's fine. Um, and Zach is saying that he can tell only he knows Billy so well that he can tell that Billy is in distress. And I'm like, Zach, he's fucking screaming at the top of his lungs. I think everyone can tell he's distressed. Um, so they all leave to go outside to try and like give Billy a minute to calm down. They can't find Aaron. Aaron's inside because he says that he saw a man running and thought that somebody broke in. I'm so sure that's what you thought happened. Um, so they do the spirit box again. This is where they hear, "Hey," again. They think it sounds like Mark. Um,
It just has like the general like male voice that comes out of this fucking box.
yeah. Hey. Oh my God, that's Mark. Uh, okay. So this is interesting because Zach is starting to say, like, I think that this spirit knows us. He's like, can you say our names? Can you say where, like, if you know me, do you know where I live? What year was I born? And the spirit box that I heard, they subtitle it as 7-7, but what I audibly heard was originally 77.
I did too, but then like on the replays, and again, this could just be because the words are on screen. It very much on like the replays sounded like 7-7
Seven
to me.
seven, and also it's like, of course, it's suggestive because they're asking for a year. I'm gonna hear it as,
Yeah,
96, not 96 or whatever. Either way, Zach was born in 1977, so just saying 77, I feel like the odds are astronomical. And I feel like you can tell that this was an authentic reaction to something that they're getting because they're all absolutely losing their minds. And like, sure, they lose their minds a lot, but they're all like, oh my God, did you hear that? They said 7-7. They say 7-7 so many fucking times. But like, and Zach is completely shook, which I don't blame him because, as we've said, like the spirit box cycles through radio waves, and so the thought is that if something is like putting its effort into stopping it at a like a certain part for it to be like, hey Zach or Mark or get out or whatever, you specifically saying, and like, sure, maybe they edited it, like, right, maybe he didn't say what year was I born and then it said 7-7, like maybe those two things weren't actually connected. We don't actually know because it's TV, but like, I don't know, it is weird. It's a weird coincidence.
yeah. Like every
April
once in a
5th.
while, there is shit that like happens on here that I'm like, I mean, I know, like who know, like it could clearly just be shit that's like edited afterwards. I have no
Right,
idea,
exactly, yeah.
but like there are things that happen where I'm like, that's weird.
But I feel too that like after you watch enough of this, like I feel that there's things where I like I said, I can tell that something seems more authentic than them just like doing their normal freak out
Well,
thing.
like it's like I talked about. They do. Fuck the blank on the show. Destination Truth would do. Like With like 90% of the episodes, they would be like, there's like weird shit out here, but we didn't really find anything. But then every once in a while, they would find like a fucking massive like footprint of something that like no one could identify and shit like that, or just like weird hairs that were like they would find that like came back inconclusive or whatever, shit
Yeah.
like that. Where I'm like, oh well, that's kind of weird, but like I think the difference is just that this show is just like, because it's like ghosts, they just almost anything they could point to as evidence. Where I'm like, that's not evidence. That could be literally anything.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like
Um,
anytime they're like this weird light anomaly that flew across the screen after we knocked over a bunch of shit in this dusty warehouse.
yeah, I absolutely need them to stop showing me light anomalies because it's never a thing.
Well, there was one in this episode. I think we hadn't
It
got
might
to
be
yet.
this.
The
It
one that
might.
like does the 360 before going into like that table of toys or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I was like, yeah, that's moving in a weird way, and I could not tell you what it is. I don't think it's a fucking spirit, but
Yeah, so yeah, I wrote Zach is completely shook, light anomaly. I think this is the one you're talking about. And also, it's definitely not a bug. It's shaped weird and it's moving weird. And the only thing that I can't really suss out, because like we've talked about this before where I'm like, I think it could be a cobweb. Cobwebs move fucking weird. They're wispy, whatever, whenever they say there's like a shadow. This one is weird to me because it shows up in the air, like you're saying. It does do a weird turn and then it kind of like nosedives towards this table that they have like a toy truck. They just have like weird offerings on this table. And it does like a nosedive onto the table and then it disappears. And I guess what I don't understand about the I don't want to say science, the physics behind it is like, why did it disappear? Is it because there's more light down there, so it disappears because the camera's not picking it up? Or did it fall actually behind the table? Like, I can't explain it because I just like don't understand the physics of what they're showing us. You know what I
right.
mean? I don't know. It definitely wasn't a bug this time. So fine, sure. Show me this light anomaly. It's fine. Okay, day 3. It's daytime. They rehash everything that we literally just watched, which was Aaron attacking Billy and Chris getting possessed and the spirit box saying that Zach was born in 1977, April 5th, if anyone's wondering. And they're just going over that stuff. They tell us that Zach has another nightmare that previous night that Jeff died in a car accident. And then Jeff is like, that's so weird because I had a vision of my girlfriend dying in a car accident. Okay. I'm going to tell you, as somebody who has extremely bad anxiety, that occurs to me all the time.
Yeah, and I would
Like,
assume
it's not a weird thing.
these dudes are like have to just constantly be on edge because of what they do.
They also travel a lot.
Yeah.
They drive. Yeah, like the thing that they're trying to say that is weird about that is that morning in front of their hotel there was a real car accident. Sure, that is weird that you're like, oh, I had a dream there was a car accident, and then you see one in front of your hotel, but like they don't say anything else about whether somebody died, or like they just are like making these bridges that they don't connect totally. I'm like, okay, yeah, weird coincidence, sure. But they show us this like what they are saying is cell phone footage from Aaron's phone. It literally looks like just regular footage that they put a filter over, so I'm not really sure, but whatever. Okay. This is when Zach tells us that he found out that there is a secret underground tunnel that goes from the hotel across the street to what is called the Emporium. And it was really nefarious and evil because they used it to transport alcohol during Prohibition.
Real fucking evil.
I feel like I don't actually know this about him, but I feel like Zach might be straight edge.
I don't know. I feel like I could see he's either being like completely like substance free, or is just like a wild alcoholic.
I'm gonna Google.
That's what I was doing.
Zach Baggins straight
Does
edge.
Zach Baggins have Robert the Doll? Never mind, I gotta read this instead.
He does have. Well, he used to.
We got we
He does.
got we got to cover the Robert the Doll movies.
I think that Robert the Doll is actually in Florida somewhere. Actually,
Does Zach Baggins drink?
the top.
Oh, what his Instagram post? I have all this wine and yet I don't drink
Oh my
from
God.
2014.
Yeah, and I actually saw a video of him like pouring wine for somebody else.
Hold on, I gotta. The Ghost Adventures Reddit. Why does Billy get in trouble for drinking 3 shots of whiskey, but Zach does this? Oh wait, no, I gotta.
Is Zach Baggins really an asshole? My issue with Zach Baggins.
Hold on, let's see.
Well, yeah, what did he do?
This has a lot of history as well. What's going on in here? Well, in this particular room, we have bottles of roof on it.
Can I do a shot of tequila before we go in the other room?
You can do the shit.
I see a challenge at a bar. Is that what guns are drawn?
Yeah, they do a shot challenge apparently. So at least in whatever time this was taking place, yeah, they're all getting fucking hammered.
Okay, so maybe he's just like recovering or whatever. Hold the presses. I just found a Wattpad story called Angel of Light, a Zach Baggins story.
What's a what story? A what?
What WATT pad
Yeah, I don't know
is
what that
like
is.
it's essentially like a fanfic site.
Oh, gotcha.
All 6 foot of his tall, dark, and haunted man had stepped into the room, and good lord, he was beautiful.
Save it. We'll do it next time we cover Ghost Adventures.
Man, he's better looking in person, I thought, trying not to blush.
Oh
my gosh.
There's no way there aren't fucking slash fiction of him and Aaron fucking like all over the internet.
Okay, let me just read you. Let me just read you this other sentence. He was wearing his traditional all-black attire, baggy black jeans, and a long-sleeved black shirt. His dark hair was perfectly sculpted into his trademark style.
Yep.
Noticing this is amazing. Random Hearts 82 is the writer. This is chapter 5. I need to go back. Hey, bro, you won't believe this. Oh, can't wait. I cannot wait to read this. As Aaron saw him approaching, he got up out of the chair and moved to sit on the edge of Zach's desk. One like bent along the edge. Aaron. Okay. I'll bookmark that. Okay. What was happening? What happened here? Oh, the alcohol thing. Okay. He said that this underground tunnel was sinister because they used to transport alcohol. Oh, goodness gracious. This is where we meet the 2 owners of the Emporium, these 2 women who are saying that they have been experiencing demonic activity. There is an entity there pretending to be a child, of course. Whatever. They tell the story about how there was a little girl who like wandered down into the downstairs where they had all the alcohol, and there was a man there that just like grabbed and killed her for no reason. I don't know. But of course they some of the guys are like downstairs in the basement. They have a offering of flowers to the little girl, and there's like EMF spikes everywhere, whatever. As he's interviewing the 2 women, Zach feels as if he's being stabbed in the stomach.
Yep.
And the guys start...
A feeling everyone knows.
Right, yes, being stabbed in the stomach. And the guys downstairs start to feel panicked and decide that they need to leave the basement. Fair. These are just like open ground basements also. They're not concrete or paved in any way. It's just like the literal earth. Then they show us like they had left a camera just like in the gift shop after Zach is like, oh, my stomach hurts, and he leaves or whatever, of the 2 women talking about how they smell something weird. They smell something bad, and it smells like dead bodies. Mm-hmm. Great.
Weird thing to say.
I know. And I don't know. So this is when they decide that this is the conclusion of the investigation, and I feel like, from a perspective of bodily injury, this is extremely dangerous, because what they decide to do is that Zach is going to go into the basement of the hotel by himself with no camera, handheld camera, and a light wand. So what this means is that he's got body cams connected to him that he cannot see, because like normally they have the night vision camera that they're looking through so that they can see. But he is not going to have that. So that means that he can't see at all. It's pitch dark. I honestly don't really know what the light wand does at all, because it doesn't help him see, whatever. But this also means that none of the other guys can watch what he's doing. He's just going in there completely in the pitch black alone with no help. He tells the guys, okay, I'm going to go in here, and if I need help, I'm going to call for help, and you guys better come. And they're like, okay, sure. So he goes down there alone, right? Which, again, he can't see. He's feeling along the wall to find the stairs down to the basement, which seems extremely dangerous. Like, it's a dilapidated building, whatever.
That's fine.
Like, okay, he immediately hears a weird noise. At the same time that Zach is doing this, Jay is going down into the Emporium basement alone. Nothing really happens down there to him. He's not going in pitch black. He's just going in normal by himself. He sees half of an XLS figure and a light anomaly. Okay. So Zach is like walking around this basement, just kind of like talking out loud. We see the body cam footage, right? And we see the stationary cameras footage of him walking around blindly. And he's basically just like, doing his normal stuff, like who's here, whatever. He hears a weird noise that they play for us. I don't know what it is. It is a weird noise, whatever. Then he hears a loud bang. And he's like, he hears the bang, the first bang, and he's just like, oh my God, guys, I need help. And he's like trying to talk to them, but because he's in a basement, the walkies are just like, he's like, guys. And Aaron and Jay are just like, or Aaron and Billy are just like looking at each other like, what? And he's just like, I can't see. And they're like, this is
probably fine.
Yeah, they're just like staring at each other like, well, he didn't say help, I guess, I don't know. This is when he hears a loud thud directly in front of him, and he starts screaming, the likes of which I have never heard. He immediately goes, ah! And he's like running through the hall in the pitch dark. He he runs into a wall so hard it breaks one of his body cams.
It's so funny. I didn't expect it, and I think like Caitlin might have been like telling me something. I don't remember. Caitlin was talking about something, and I just blurted out laughing because I just looked up and saw him smash into the wall.
It is
and just
so
start
funny.
Screaming for help, and I was fucking dying.
Because like I understand your instinct when you hear a thud in front of you in the pitch dark is to like protect yourself. Like obviously fight or flight, he's flight. But him just like yelling at the top of his lungs and running full speed into a wall and falling over, and he's got the walk and he's like, help me guys, as he's like laying winded, having broken it just like, I don't know if there's better TV out there.
It's up there.
He explains in a voiceover that he heard a loud bang and he felt an explosion of rage. And he could feel all of the dark energy in the building injecting into him.
Of course.
Seems bad, if true. Yeah, Zach tells us that they actually show the replay of him from the body cams running and then the camera going blank because he broke it. Hilarious. So the guys finally, after he's like screaming at the top of his lungs and like crying for help, the guys are like, go, go, go. Aaron says it feels like he's in the military and he's waiting for the call to dispatch. And I was like, you fucking wish, bro.
Yeah.
So they go down there to like check him or whatever, and they're like, "What happened? What happened? Like we heard you yelling, but we couldn't hear anything else." And Zach's like trying to just explain it to them, and then he's just like, "Touch me, touch me, touch me!" Like he will not speak. Like, "Here, touch my arm, touch me right here, touch me, guys, touch me." And he's like, "It might seem awkward that I'm telling the guys to touch me, but it's because I can feel something latched onto my arm." Okay. Billy does a spirit box where a woman's voice says, "Time," and then they hear another loud bang, and they're trying to say that the time thing connects back to Chris earlier in the episode, the medium, telling us that there's a time vortex. So there you go, solid proof. There's a time vortex there. Then they hear an EVP of somebody saying Mary, and they're weirded out because Billy's mother's name is also Mary. Okay. And Zach says, "Is it the same entity that was getting personal with me earlier?" I think it probably was. They love to get personal.
Mm-hmm.
Then they hear a EVP of somebody saying what sounded to me like Jerry Blackman, which is just a person's name, and Aaron says that it sounded like the voice of a miner.
like coal miner, or
like a gold miner, a gold miner.
Okay.
But like, what a fucking weird thing to say. Because I'm gonna reiterate that this town was founded during the gold rush for gold, Goldfield Hotel, right? They do not say anything else. The thing that they've decided to hyperfixate on in this location is that this man who investigated with them before, spirit, has been called back to this location for some reason. Like,
I just want Aaron to come on the podcast and explain to me what a miner sounds like.
That's what I'm saying. Because like, I'm guessing he means because like the voice sounded kind of like gruff or whatever, but it's just like such a weird thing to say because even when they're talking about like the history of the hotel, they're talking about like the owner of the hotel, like maybe he kidnapped a sex worker and killed her because she got pregnant or something. There's like all of these deaths that they're talking about, but they don't really talk about the miners themselves at all.
Did they do though at all in like one of the previous times they were there?
Maybe. It's possible, yeah, but yeah, it's just like such a weird thing for him to say when they haven't really touched on it at all the whole time. And also Jerry Blackman, okay. This is when they use a new device that Jeff has created for them that is called the Track Cam. And what it does is that it tracks the motion, speed, and coordinates of transient electromagnetic fields. Essentially what they're saying is that like if the EMF reader can pick up on EMF field spikes or whatever, this camera does it, but in 3D. But like, I don't know, you're just gonna tell me that like some random guy on your team invented new equipment and you're just gonna like believe that it's real technology? It just seems really strange to me. So basically they show Aaron standing in this area that they consider to be the vortex and nothing happens, and then Zach goes and stands there, and then all of a sudden there's all these anomalies like floating around or whatever. Sure. This may be one of the only episodes where we get a true ending and it doesn't just cut off, because afterwards Zach says the darkness emanating from the Goldfield Hotel clearly has a vendetta against us.
Yep. Clearly.
Not sure about that. As we close the book on this final chapter, I'm not sure if we won or lost, but I feel lucky to have just survived.
He's so fucking weird.
Like, there was a lot of theatrics in this episode involving the psychic medium being possessed. It happens multiple times where he's like speaking to them, you know, as if he were a spirit, and then the guy's getting angry, but like, that's essentially it. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't really understand why. I guess, I don't know, whatever.
Katie, I say this every episode. This show's bad, and I'm worried about you.
It's so good.
It's I can't fucking believe this is a show that has been on for this long.
I think we should. Okay, we'll do Demon House, of course. There's an episode of like the new season that I really want to do because it is so really ridiculous. But we should at some point do one of like an episodes from like the first couple of seasons because
Yeah, I want to. I honestly, I do want to see if I could. I'll fucking buy us the DVDs if I can find them for cheap. I want to see that first special because I want to see what 2004, like what this show was like before it became like Ghost
a
Adventures or
spectacle or
what.
whatever.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I am curious to see what this is like the first time they at least filmed themselves doing it.
right. Or because also, it was I feel like the show definitely changed when Billy and Jay joined because like they definitely added such a I don't know, different level of spectacle to the show because both of them are constantly like freaking out, feeling things, getting possessed or whatever. But I feel like earlier in the show, like before, they just like all the more of them that there are, the more they feed off each other, right? Of course. And like back in the day, there just wasn't as many people in that role, so like it's definitely a little bit different.
Yeah.
Um, but
Uh,
yeah, I don't know.
I This show's bad, Katie.
It's so good.
um. All right. That's
Zach anyways, what I was saying earlier about him, the thing where they were reacting to him, asking what year he was born, and the spirit box told him that felt authentic to me. And then when Zach was in the basement in the dark and he got scared, that felt extremely authentic to me because who of his hubris is going to show himself running full speed into a wall for no reason? Like, I'm not saying that whatever caused the sound was like it could have just been like, okay, go down into the basement, we're gonna hide down there and someone's gonna try and scare you, right? Like, sure, maybe that's what happened because they don't talk about the thudding or the noises at all. But his reaction of him screaming and running to me seemed extremely
well,
authentic.
but it's also like it could like literally just a like building settling type of thing where you could just like so just sitting in your house and
Yeah,
something
I
like
mean, they're in a basement.
things will make a noise, and it's just like if you're in pitch black, like where and like you're using all of this equipment that like he says heightens your other senses since you can't see, like the slightest noise is probably going to freak you out. So like
Yeah,
I genuinely believe he got scared and ran off. Like I don't think that was an act. But like it's not a fucking ghost.
right.
That's my issue with this show is like all of the stuff that's something like that where it's like this really sort of over the top like thing that happens. I'm always like there is a clear and like an Occam's razor explanation of this that's just
Sure.
not a ghost.
Yeah.
But that like I'll say there are things though that also happen like we said with like the birth year thing or whatever. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, yes,
But like
exactly.
I feel like 99% of the time they use those things where it's supposed to be something talking. I'm like, this is clearly just gibberish. Like and when they use that one where it's like the thing is just saying words like randomly, and but they'll
Yeah.
like it'll say like 20 words, but then they hear like two of them that could like possibly fit their scenario. They're like, "Oh my god, bro, did you hear that?"
There's also at
It
one
said
point where
bread, tomato, kill, Aaron, jellyfish. Like,
oh my god, kill Aaron. There was one time too where they're like, "Oh my god, did you hear that?" And it's just like intelligible, and I was like, "Why are you freaking out?
I
It's
know,
just it's
because then they're just like,
noise."
it's a disembodied voice, and I'm like, great.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. The only news that I think is at all worth mentioning is Tony Todd died, which sucks.
Such a bummer.
R.I.P. our Dark Side.
Yeah.
He was
Sad
fucking
about
so
it.
good as Dark Side. That's yeah. nothing good can happen, apparently.
No, and yeah, he was definitely like one of those people where like obviously most people know him as Candyman, which great, but he just was like one of those people where whenever he showed up in anything, like no matter the role, it was like exciting to see him. So,
Yeah, I've seen like a lot of people, like, which I think this is a role that he doesn't get a lot of credit for, but like he was the lead in like Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead remake. And he's
mhm,
so
mhm.
fucking good in it. But most of the time I see anyone ever post anything, it's like Candyman, obviously, but I see a lot of like Final Destination as well,
Yeah.
which I've not seen any of those, so I've like no connection to it. But like, I've it's been nice seeing people sort of like come around on like that '90s Night of the Living Dead remake because like despite it being kind of blander than you would expect because like they made Tom Savini cut a bunch of shit, it's surprisingly good. And Tony Todd is super good in it.
Yeah. I mentioned this before, but I had like a 6 degrees of separation or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it from him, where Chris's previous old coworker's partner, Tony Todd was his cousin, and I don't know like how close they were, or if he was like a, whatever, just because. So I haven't said anything, obviously,
Yeah.
but that's really sad. Because when I saw it, I think you texted it maybe, and we were like in the middle of something, and I like gasped, and I was like, "Oh my God, Tony Todd died!" And Chris was like, "Who?" Like, just didn't
Mm.
recognize him by name, and I was like, "Such and such his cousin." He was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so sad," but yeah, sucks.
Yep.
Uh, Actual bad men.
Yeah. How's Kevin Sorbo still? How's John Voight like 90 something or some shit and
I don't
still
know.
hanging in there and probably somehow gonna be in an Anaconda remake or some shit soon.
Yeah, not fair. The only thing that I saw was I was getting advertised this Christmas movie where I think I didn't really pay that much attention to it because obviously I don't like him or care about him at all, but I think Jack Black is playing either Krampus or Krampus like Satan. And it's like another one of those things where a kid writes a letter and then instead of like to Santa, it says to Satan and it's Jack Black and I was like, okay,
There's
great.
like I've seen like ads for like 3 or 4 very strange Christmas
The red
movies. Yeah,
one,
is that the one like The Rock or some shit's
yeah,
in?
and Jonah Jameson or whatever. Wait, what's his name?
I don't know, J. Jonah Jameson
Yeah, I think he's in that one
asking
too.
for pictures of Spider-Man.
Yeah, he is. He's like, "Where's my pics?" Yeah, what a weird cast. Kieran Shipka's in it. Chris Evans, Evan Williams, Chris Evans. I cannot ascertain what this movie is about because it's like a jumble. It's kind of like, do you remember people? I think I don't know if this is like a widely known movie, but there's that movie, Rise of the Guardians, which was like largely about Jack Frost, who, if anybody knows, for some reason, I'm like obsessed with Jack Frost. But it's an animated movie, and there's like other quote unquote holiday guardians, so like the Easter bunnies, Sandman, whatever. This seems to be that kind of movie because there's like also the Headless Horseman referenced in it, and I'm just like, I can't tell what this is supposed to be about.
Yeah, I don't know. I I'm uninterested in Christmas movies that like at this point. Like I don't know. I like even the like ones that seem like horror like related. I'm like I don't know. This just looks dumb.
I think I do think it's hard to pull off at this
I,
point.
they're
But
just easy sells. I think like it's
yeah, yeah.
probably an easy like probably at least easy to make back at least what you spent making it or whatever. You like make back your budget. So, like
Okay.
so.
After Santa Claus, codename Red One, is kidnapped, the North Pole's head of security, Dwayne Johnson, must team up with the world's most infamous bounty hunters to save him. Okay. Yeah. Um this to me, I guess that like maybe a action Christmas movie does not uh appeal to me at all. I keep thinking going back to that Letters to Satan clause movie,
I have
which
told so many fucking people about that movie recently.
I desperately want to rewatch it because I can't stop thinking about it and being like how pleasantly surprising it was. So like there are ones like horror ones that I think I would give a chance. I think like an action comedy one is like really not up my alley anyway, so I won't check it out. But I guess I'm just like it is PG-13, so I'm surprised. I'm guessing it's supposed to be like a
It's probably
family
just like
type
yeah, it's
thing.
probably just got like a bunch of
Yeah,
like gun violence or some shit in it.
yeah, but
I
not interested for
I
me.
just like we've done like Christmas horror movies almost every year, and like they're all pretty fucking bad. Like
Which
it's
is
very hard, I think, to pull off like a straight, especially if you're trying to make like an actual like scary, not like a Santa sleigh style movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you're trying to make like a real actual like horror movie but Christmas, it's just like they're just usually not good. And it's almost always like something about like an evil Santa, and I'm like, this is I don't give a shit about this anymore.
Yeah, I guess it's just called Dear Santa, which is very confusing
Yeah, it
because
is.
I will not be checking that one. It really bums me out too because like it does go back to that, and I'm sure I've ranted about this before, where there's like so many things about actual Christmas lore that is inherently so weird and spooky that like I'm glad sort of that people have finally like latched onto Krampus a little bit more, but like there's other stuff. Like we can keep moving on. Like
Well,
you
yeah,
don't have to keep
the
rehashing the
that's the
same.
thing is like they've already think we've got enough Krampus movies at this point.
Yeah.
We don't. It's the same way that I've like said like we don't need more like slasher Santa movies. They've been done to death. Like we could stop for a while.
Yeah.
Like
Um
I will say like as much as like some of them have sucked. Like we've done like fuck I can't remember what that one was that we did that was like I think it was a Christmas movie where it was just like a family being tormented by like an alien spirit or some shit that was like taking over their bodies. What the fuck movie was that? Does that sound
hmm,
at all familiar to you?
no.
Like I'll see if I can find it while we're talking in like the list of movies we covered. But like I feel like there was one we did. Maybe it was something I just watched separately. I can't remember. But like I remember like it was like a Christmas movie and like this I think like the girlfriend in it gets like taken over by some fucking I don't know. I'll find it.
Okay, yeah, no, it doesn't. Yeah, and I mean, there have been some obviously that have worked, but that Operation, oh, what was it called? It has like a rare exports, maybe.
Oh
It has
yeah,
like a
yeah,
couple
that one's
different
good.
term names. Like that one's good. Obviously, regular Krampus with my bestie Adam Scott is like one of the best movies ever. But yeah, I don't know why it's so tough.
Oh man, I forgot we did the Monsters Christmas. The movie was good.
I actually was thinking about that recently. That yeah.
Uh, do you talk about like stuff you watched this week while looking through this list?
Unfortunately, I think the only thing I watched was Parks and Rec.
Oh, fair. I rewatched Hot Rod because I was like I need something good.
Yeah, I was like, luckily, like you and I texted about it, of course. Luckily, I was already watching it, and I had gotten to the point where Ben and Leslie were like starting to like
Yeah.
secretly date or whatever, and I was just like, oh, thank God I'm already watching this because,
Uh,
um,
I
yeah.
I also rewatched Cell, the Stephen King movie for because it was on in the break room at work, so I watched it on silent at work. The best way to watch
Woof.
it.
Yeah, if you have to, I guess.
um,
It was, oh, you're saying you don't know if we actually did it for the
that's
podcast.
what I'm trying to figure out. Like I swear we did because I can't imagine this is something I would have watched
Could it have like there
regularly.
there was some that we did like just for Patreon too. So
Yeah,
like at this point, who knows?
yeah.
Oh wait, was it like a creature, alien creature that took over them and they were like running from it in the house?
I believe so. That's the way I remember it,
Yeah, okay, I'm remembering that now.
but I can't figure out based on these movies of like what the fuck it was, and like it also like it could possibly have been like a movie that we like didn't realize was a Christmas movie that we like covered, so it wasn't, because I'm mostly looking at like what we did during December's.
I let's see. I have a playlist for Christmas movies that we've done on um Spotify. American Exorcist.
The
Uh,
movie was wildly unrememberable.
was it Housebound?
No, because Housebound is the one that was like the SOV movie, I think. Hold on, I'm trying to get back to that. 'Cause I saw it earlier and I. Maybe, was it Hosts? Yes, no. Maybe it was Hosts. Because one of the bonus episodes that we got picked, we had to do Host, Hosts, and the Host. And Host was our Christmas Eve, an innocent couple become hosts to a malicious entity. Throughout the
Mm,
night, they terrorize a family of 5 in unimaginable, violent, and disturbing ways. I think it was this. I think it was Hosts.
I don't even remember that movie.
That's about all I remember about it. Because I have a very specific image of, I remember, like, it's like this couple that's getting ready for, like, Christmas or something, and like there's a scene where like when she gets like overtaken by this entity, if they do that shit where there's like a bunch of lights come out of her eyes and mouth, and that's about like all I can really remember from it.
Did it have like a table scene where they were like sitting at the table and somebody like,
Probably, I couldn't tell you that at this point.
geez, we watched too many movies, is what I've
Yeah, we're
gathered
currently
from
at
this.
at least just the stuff that's on Letterboxd, we're 486. That doesn't
Jeez.
count like TV shows or like Tales from the Crypt, stuff like that. That's not on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
All right. What do you want to shout out?
Oh no. Oh man, I had something too earlier. I know what it was. They, because I texted it in the group chat. My shout out is, I don't know if this was like common knowledge that this was coming out or not. But Jeff Vandermeer just released a, to me, surprise fourth book in the previously called Southern Reach trilogy, which was that, book that Annihilation was based off
Mm.
of. It is called Absolution. So I started reading it, and so far it's really interesting. So, yeah.
Uh, I'm gonna say go listen to the album "Do You Still Love Me" by Planes Mistaken for Stars. Uh, an album that was recorded. Uh, I think literally had just finished being recorded when their singer passed away in
Aw.
2020, maybe 2021, something like that. Um, he passed away, and then they just kind of put it on hold and like came back to it in the last little bit to like master it and like finish it up as like a hey, here's like his final work sort of thing, and like release it in his honor. And it's really, really fucking good. Um, Outside of that, just go fucking, like I said earlier, find organizations for people that are gonna need help here soon, and donate if you can. If you got local mutual aid places or abortion funds, especially in like states that are extremely fucking red. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
probably like, this is what we used to do, and then like the last little bit, we've just used like Patreon money for like buying like Brandon's book for
Yeah.
us and shit like that. But I'll probably go back to like donating at least for a little bit for the foreseeable future, like our Patreon funds. So if you're interested in getting all of our, like, I think we got 100-ish bonus episodes on Patreon. Like, if you're interested, you want some bonus episodes, like, sign up for our Patreon. We're gonna be donating the money to things that need it, probably.
Yeah. You can
Um,
also, last year, we started a new tradition and we'll do it this year. where for Christmas, instead of Christmas movies, we watch Chris Kattan
Chris
movies, and it's
Kattan-mas.
called Chris Kattan.
Yes.
So this year, I think definitely we're going to be doing Porky Romano.
Yeah, we
Porky,
have
Porky
to. The
Romano.
problem is it's never streaming anywhere, but like honestly, now that you said something, I know for a fact I can get us very cheap.
I think I think for my birthday you sent me the DVD.
Yeah, let me know because
I'm pretty sure you
I
did.
don't think I have it on DVD. I know I have it on VHS.
Okay,
But
perfect.
yeah, we'll do that. We'll figure out whatever else is streaming closer to.
Yeah, so maybe I'll make a shirt this year.
I think that's like the last of his sort of like bigger name or like known movies that he's in that we haven't done. He's in A Year Without a Santa Claus from 2006.
Oh, hell yeah.
Is that John Goodman as Santa? We might have to find this.
Yes, 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 yes.
Chris Kattan plays a character named Sparky.
I really want to see that, like, I might be getting two movies crossed, but isn't there one that's like a Western that he plays multiple people? He plays like
I
two.
don't know if he plays multiple people, but he's in a movie called Undead and Alive, a
Yeah, that's what I'm,
zombie with a
yeah,
fucking James Denton.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. We need to get our hands on that one,
Yeah,
but
it looks terrible. We'll figure it out.
I can't.
He's got a lot. Yeah. So if you're interested in the Patreon, it's patreon.com/IPSufferPodcast. Uh, depending, whatever the next time all three of us can record, we have to do Heather's as the bonus episode.
Yes, Christian Slater miss.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Renata Wider miss. Chris Kattan just works so well.
Yeah, the
Like,
minute I came up with that, I was like, until we're out of Chris Kattan movies, this is it.
yes.
You can leave us a rating and review on iTunes and Spotify and all that shit if you want. Spotify apparently allows comments on episodes, so do not comment on our episodes.
Please comment.
What?
Please
No,
comment.
don't. Every comment I've seen. Granted, I listen to a lot of like QAnon Anonymous and Knowledge Fight and shit like that.
Oh yeah,
And
no,
all
no,
of the
no.
comments are fucking unhinged. So, not every fucking site and platform needs a comment section. Knock that shit off. Because it's never
Listen,
good. Comment sections are the fucking worst.
leave a comment. You figure out the rest.
Yep. Corpse showed up. You figure out the rest. Somebody leave a comment on a random episode that just says that. And that's
Yeah.
it. You can follow us on Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. You can follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery and Kitrification of Blood. You can follow Katie at WerewolfFace and join Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. You can listen to my other podcast, Nate Kate Movie Club. I think I know what we're doing next week, but I got to figure out because Kit has a very specific schedule and I got to figure out what works. But we got to do Tiffany's Patreon picks. So, but it's one that like specifically you need to be there for. So like,
Tiffany, I'm skipping it.
We'll figure it out when we're done recording. So that'll be something next week. Next time the three of us are together, I think we're doing Mac and Me for a weird little guy movie.
Yay!
For a fun weird little guy movie because that movie is fucking crazy.
Yeah, you know the only thing that I want to talk about, of course.
The kid falling off the cliff.
Well,
The
specifically,
Paul Rudd.
yes. Yes. Yes, the Paul
The
Rudd.
fact that Paul Rudd has managed to do that on the podcast version of Conan's show is so fucking funny to me.
That should be like a world record of best joke.
It's so funny.
Of pulling off the best joke ever. Amazing.
All right. We'll be back next week with something. I hope you were born in 77, but why?